Gotta tie the hoodie up tight for this one. You got me out here looking like Hoodie Mellow. What's going on, y'all? It's your boy Tevin El Chapo. Friends call me Chop. Photographer, videographer, anime fan. And I just finished watching Netflix's new adaptation of Cowboy Bebop. Now, full disclosure, Cowboy Bebop is literally one of my favorite shows ever. My favorite anime ever. And this new adaptation is okay. It's not good, but it's not completely terrible. I'm pretty mixed right now. I am a diehard Cowboy Bebop fan. I love the show. I definitely watch it at least once a year, except for this year where I watched it twice because of this live action adaptation. And I must say, in terms of the anime by itself, it still holds up very much so. Like, just the storytelling, the beats, the music, everything is just fantastic. But here's the thing. Netflix definitely tried. They definitely really did try, but I think they missed the mark in a lot of respects. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say spoiler alert to Cowboy Bebop, both the 1998 anime and the live action. I'm gonna try and keep it as light as possible on spoilers, but you never know what can be considered a spoiler nowadays. I don't know how I want to go through this. This is a little impromptu, so I just put everything in categories of what I thought were good to okay, in my opinion, and then we'll go down to bad, and then we'll just get down to the terrible. One thing I also want to say is that I truly hate live action adaptations with a passion of any property whatsoever, and I actually had faith. I really had faith that this was going to be the one that was actually going to work and that was going to propel this whole new wave of adaptations, and it just didn't work out that way for me. So what was good for me? I think the dynamic between the crewmates of the Bebop was very intriguing. I think some of the liberties that they took in terms of just changing the characters up was also interesting takes on the characters themselves. You know, the way Spike and Jet play off each other is a little bit more towards the odd couple approach versus the anime, but I do find myself enjoying it. I also enjoy bringing Faye a little bit earlier into the show, and also her dynamic within the group as well is also intriguing. You know, with certain liberties that were given, such as Jet having a daughter, Faye's dynamic with her family, and just, you know, Spike's and his past being more fleshed out were interesting. I think John Cho as Spike was pretty solid overall. About as good as I can take an adaptation of Spike Spiegel, you know, and I think overall his character is enjoyable enough for what it is. Personally, I think Jet is my favorite character on the show. He seems the more faithful to his anime counterpart than any of the other characters in the show. I don't know, something about his voice and his demeanor just reminds me so much of Bo Balenci's take of the character in the dub of the anime. So I find it really interesting, especially with a lot of the backstory that he gets switched around. I think it's a different take on the role. I get it's kind of mixed, but I was pretty okay with it. Faye is fine. I think her character does change, but with the addition of new characters and new development, it warrants the change that it gives within the confines of the adaptation itself, if that makes sense at all. They definitely make her less of a femme fatale type character. And also, I kind of feel like she does too much exposition for me. Like, it's just everything with her is just more exposition than most, from what I noticed. Ein is Ein. I can't really say I care for the changes they made to Ein's character, nor do I kind of understand how he gets in certain situations. But look at him, he's just so adorable. I mean, I could never be mad at him. You won that one, Netflix. Congratulations. The opening sequence also is fine. It's definitely not as nearly as good as the original, but it serves the purpose again for the show. So I think a lot of the adaptation itself tries to serve different purposes. Like, even with the music, the composition, cinematography, I think are really well done. The CGI is pretty good, mostly. Some of the action sequences seem a little bit stiffer than I would like them to be. But overall, there's still enjoyable moments and some of the better moments of the show. So I think in those respects, it's pretty solid, but there was still problems. My first biggest problem being they got all the villains wrong. I think that with the villains, you see a lot of the flaws in terms of the different liberties that Netflix have taken within the confines of Cowboy Bebop. There's not one villain in the whole show whose motives actually make any type of sense whatsoever. And it's not because it was like that in anime at all. It's because they were just reworked in such ways that it just comes off as nonsensical. And this is what leads me to the parts that I just couldn't stand behind at all. And if anything I said before this was non-spoiler, this part is definitely a spoiler alert. Definitely spoiled out. Don't spoil yourself if you still want to watch this. So Vicious and Julia, why? Just everything about both of their characters. Why did they do that why did they destroy both of those characters so badly? I just feel like Vicious is so much more of a force of nature in the anime. He does what he wants, when he wants, and he's 100% unapologetic about it. And that's what makes him such a presence throughout the show. But in this new adaptation, he's more of a man-child, and it's just annoying. Like every time he's on screen, he doesn't do anything interesting. He's always in his feelings. And now he has daddy issues. Like, why did he need to have daddy issues? Just out of nowhere. No part of this was in the original version. And it just doesn't build up the character more. It just makes him less menacing. It just makes him so much lesser of a character. In the anime, Julia is nothing more than a fractured person from the past who's still living in the past in a lot of respects, just like Spike, who got away from the syndicate just like Spike. But for some reason, she's not only with Vicious, she's his wife, and she's trying to succeed him by being the leader of the syndicate. Which is fine, but she then also sets up Spike for no good reason and then blames her troubles onto him out of nowhere. This is literally the last episode. The last two episodes of the show are literally the worst two for me, because episode 9 is just a whole flashback of them when Spike was in the syndicate, when he was fearless, but everything just doesn't work at all. It just makes every character seem worse than they were. It doesn't establish anything that you didn't already know about these characters. It doesn't explain anything further. It literally just shows you literally what happened in the past, things that you already inferred leading up to that point, because it's episode 9 of 10. And it just seems pointless at the end of the day. It just seems pointless. It doesn't do anything for you. It doesn't add any Easter eggs or clues. It's just there. It just exists to make everyone worse. And then it leads into episode 10, where you know that there's this big final battle between Vicious and Spike, and you have to lead up to it. But then you get there, you get to the iconic moments from the anime, but then you set up Julia as the bigger bad of the two, between the syndicate and Vicious. Next thing you know, she shoots Spike out of nowhere. She becomes head of the syndicate and has Vicious locked up so that he can obviously come back in the next season. And then you just have everyone in shambles. Jet is hurt. And I feel the worst for Jet out of everybody, because he gets the shortest end of the stick. He's just trying his hardest to be a good person, and you just feel bad for him by the end. And it's just tough. Faye is off to find her past, which is understandable at best, you know. But then you have Spike, who kind of just has no existence. He has nowhere to be. He belongs nowhere anymore. Just for them to set up Edward for next season, who also somehow found Ein. How? I don't know. Ein just shows up in so many places where I'm just like, how did you get here? What have you been doing? I feel like there was a missing episode. If we needed flashbacks, Ein needed a flashback. I don't think Spike needed it. I don't think Spike needed one as much as Ein did. But yeah, overall, I just think this show failed. Cowboy Bebop is literally my favorite anime, and I really had high hopes. I really wanted to love it. I really didn't even want to have to make this video. I didn't even anticipate it, but now I must wear my hoodie up in sadness. Netflix has bamboozled me again. I don't know. I think that there was so much to like about this show, and maybe if you haven't seen Cowboy Bebop before, or you just don't enjoy the anime, the original version, then you may enjoy this better or more than I have. But as a die-hard fan of the show, someone who's been watching it faithfully over and over again, I can't sit well with this. It has so much potential in some places, but then drops the ball in so many other significant places for me. And it's such a toss-up. It's such a mixed bag. It's just not bad enough for me to hate it, but it's not good enough for me to like it. And I'm really torn. I'm just super torn. And apparently I'm not the only one that has mixed feelings about this. At the time of my recording, the show currently has a 51% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone seems pretty divisive on this. I think it has a lot of heart. I think it tries a lot more than most other live action adaptations, and I will give it credit for putting forth the effort. But I still feel like this show is just missing the spirit that the original had. It just feels lifeless. It feels soulless at times. And those are the things that just don't sit well with me. And don't even get me started on Radical Edward, because she didn't even show up but 30 seconds in the last episode. So I don't even have a real opinion on her. Do I want to see a season 2? Not really, no. Honestly, I just don't have any real desire to see this again. They will have to do a lot more tweaking, they would have to follow the original a little bit closer for me to maybe get back on board. But right now I'm feeling a little burnt, and I'm just real mixed up about it. But hey, what did you think about Cowboy Bebop on Netflix? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Are you kind of in between? Did you see the original 1998 anime? Do you care to see either one, the anime or the new version? Comment below. We can talk about it. We can definitely have a great discussion. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. My name is Tevin El Chapo. Friends call me Chop. I'm a photographer, videographer, Cowboy Bebop lover, and I just had to make this video to let you guys know, man. And don't forget to like this up. I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.